Well, as you heard, the fight against ISIL has not been easy, to say the least. Is the U.S.-led strategy working? Let's get some answers from Wardah Khalid. She's a Peace Fellow on Middle East Policy at the Friends Committee on National Legislation here in Washington. Wardah, welcome.
Thank you.
So the big question everyone seems to be asking, what is the U.S. strategy and is it working? Your thoughts?
The U.S. strategy right now is very, very military focused, and frankly, it's not working. ISIS has 22,000 members from 100 different countries right now, and they're only growing. They've taken over key cities in Iraq and Syria, and it makes it very clear that the airstrikes that the U.S.-led coalition has been carrying out are not working. ISIS can only be solved at the negotiating table, not the battlefield.
So we heard Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi basically at first saying, we need support, and then during the news conference saying it got the commitment it needs. What does this country need from the United States and the international coalition?
Well, the Iraqi Prime Minister is asking for things like surveillance. He wants weapons. He wants intelligence. And he is trying to fight this in a military fashion. But what the U.S. and other coalition countries should be doing is looking at other issues on the ground that are causing ISIS to perpetuate in the first place. So issues where people have institutional issues, the Sunni minority that's being ostracized in the country and not participating in the fight of ISIL, and what is causing ISIS to get larger. These are the issues that the U.S.-led coalition should be looking at, not just throwing more weapons into the mix.
But what do you do when the country's prime minister is asking for these types of solutions? I mean, do you turn your back and say no?
It's not about turning your back. It's about giving him the right tools that he needs. The Iraqi prime minister is fighting a battle that cannot be won simply with weapons. It needs to be a more nuanced approach that looks at civil society and coalition groups on the ground, as well as incorporates other groups that are being marginalized in order to reach a lasting solution.
But at the end of the day, whose responsibility is that? Because the U.S. has often been accused of meddling. The Iranians are often accused of meddling. So at the end of the day, whose responsibility is that to have a negotiation process and perhaps not to rely so much on a military solution?
At the end of the day, it's going to be with the Iraqi people themselves. They are the ones that are going to stand up and make these political institutions that incorporate Iraqis of all different backgrounds, whether they're Sunni, whether they're Shia, and help them alleviate these grievances that they have, as well as help them economically and stop the human rights abuses that these Iraqi Shia militias and the Iraqi army have been carrying out against the Sunni minority. Once you have all of these institutions in place, you have a better civil society that can better exterminate ISIS.
And if you talk to the Iranian-backed militias, they would say they've been instrumental in taking back other cities, and without the Iranians' help, that Iraq would not have been able to make that progress. So, there's always two sides to the story. We appreciate your time, your perspective. Wardah Khalid, thanks for being with us.
Sure, thanks for having me.